seconds and counting.
Hey, what's up, guys? Clutch City Entertainment here, back with another video, and today we are back talking about the Houston Texans and the 2023 NFL Draft. And the Texans they're in a very interesting situation. Lots of rumors have been going on, and the most recent one, one that may not necessarily be the most pleasing to the fans, is that the Texans are looking to potentially trade down on the second overall pick. That comes from Lance Zierlein, who is a very plugged-in insider for the NFL Network. Lance Zierlein is someone who correctly predicted the Texans' 2 first-round picks last year in Derek Stingley and Kenyon Green in his final mock draft. He's definitely close with some people in Houston. He knows a lot about the situation that is going on there. So that is something that I will look into, and I think that everyone should look into and not even be surprised if it happens. So with that being said, I looked at Over the Cap. It's a very, solid website when it comes to salary cap and trades. They have a cap calculator, trade calculators, free agent trackers, all that stuff. I think everyone should go check it out. But I went to a trade calculator and I looked at the Texans and the Raiders for potential trade. The Raiders have the 7th overall pick in the draft, and lots of people have said that they do covet CJ Stroud very, very highly. That's a team to look at. So when you go to their trade calculator, the 2nd overall pick is worth 2,649 points. The 7th overall pick in the draft is worth 2,014 points. So obviously, you got to give up a little bit more there. And with that being said, the 3rd round pick that the Raiders have, the 100th overall, is worth 666 points, meaning that would technically mean that the Raiders are giving up more points. So that's just something that you could potentially see. Maybe the Texans add an extra 3rd round pick, and obviously maybe a little bit more. Like, for example, the 109th overall pick the Raiders also have is worth 620 points. So a little sweetener there to maybe get the Texans to add more mid-round picks, which is something that Nick Caserio always likes to do. So, Jacob, with that being said, not necessarily just speaking upon trading with like the Raiders, but more in general, what do you think about the possibility of the Texans trading back from 2?
I have no issue with it, to be honest with you. I think I'd rather trade back from 2 than pick defensive 2, because I think there's value at that spot that you could gain from, like, let's say if you were to move down to 10, you could pick up some extra mid-round picks and go get Tyree Wilson, or go get a different defensive player that you would like. Maybe, I know a lot of fans may not like this, but maybe you could go Christian Gonzalez or one of the corners on the board, Jalen Carter. Like, there's a lot of options outside of Will Anderson that if you were to trade down and regain assets, you could go, or you could just trade down, and if Will Levis or Anthony Richardson are there at 7, you pick them at 7 and you move on with your day. I think if you don't have conviction on one of the quarterbacks, I think it is smart to trade down, even if maybe the value is not great. I think trading down is not a bad option, because you could regain some assets and just have more versatility that you could do in the draft. If you gain some mid-round picks, because there is known to move up and down the board, I think that would benefit him a lot.
Yeah, that would definitely put them in a good situation. I'm gonna name some like kind of scenarios here. Let's say the Texans do actually trade back with the Raiders, and they select Will Levis with their 7th overall pick, someone that we've heard they may covet even more than CJ Stroud, potentially having Will Levis as their quarterback too. And then they're at 12, where they can kind of just go with best player available, and 2 players that could be there that they do also like would be Lucas Van Ness, the edge defensive end from Iowa, and potentially Bijan Robinson or Jackson Smith and Jigba. Those are 2 guys that they are very high on as well. There's also a scenario where maybe, say, the Texans have like an in-division trade. They go back to 4, trading back with the Colts, and they select Will Anderson with the 4th overall pick, and then they trade from 12 up to 7 and select Will Levis. So those are just some things you could potentially look at. And Jacob, if the Texans were to trade back, not necessarily speaking upon my scenarios, but what would be the best case scenario in your mind for the Texans to do if they were to move out of that 2nd overall pick?
My personal favorite move would be to trade back to 4 with Indy, and I don't think they'd do it, because I know teams don't like trading within their division. But I think from the standpoint of, like, obviously they'd probably move up for CJ. If you don't believe in CJ that much anyway, you should have no problem with him being in your division. You would be able to move back. You could regain some assets. Ursay would probably give up a lot to go up and get CJ, and I think that front office would like CJ. I think it's a pretty perfect fit as they want a day one starter, and I think he's more of a day one starter than either of the two quarterbacks that be left for them at 4. I mean, I just think in that situation, you would gain assets. And if you really wanted Will Anderson, I think there's a very good chance he is there at 4 if you move back. And I think that's a perfect situation for them. I don't think it will happen because I don't think they will trade it within division. But that would be my ideal situation.
Yeah, I mean, one thing is for sure, trading up and down is a little bit risky. You can always potentially get caught taking someone in a bad place of value. Can also get caught with a team trading up ahead of you and stealing the player you wanted, or the team that's already there taking the player you wanted. So at 2, you definitely have a little bit more of a choice of who you want. It's coming down to the point where the Panthers are looking like they're going to take Bryce Young. Could it all be smoke? Potentially, and I've spoken upon that before. And so it's up to the Texans at this point to find out what they're comfortable with doing. And Nick Cassero did have his kind of pre-draft press conference on Monday where he said the team has received some calls for the second overall pick. But at the same time, they haven't ruled out any possibility. They certainly have not made their decision up at this point. And at this point in time, it seems like the truth will really only come out on April 27th when that Panthers pick is made and the Texans are forced to make a decision. And when the Texans pick is revealed, we will truly know what is going on. That's going to be it for today's video. Make sure to like, comment down below, and we'll see you guys next time. Peace.